Okay. Welcome, Joanne. Joanne and Joanne.
Yes, I know. Isn't that great? When I found out that your name was actually Joanne, I'm like, brilliant.
Yeah, it was yeah, the spirit gave me a spirit name that I took on for a little while, and so I've just kind of reintegrated back into Joanne, which has been a
Right.
really interesting process actually, with taking all of this change that happened for me as Anna
Mm,
Seahawk, and then melding that in with who I was before,
yeah.
and like sort of reintroducing myself in a way to my family. It was really interesting. They're like, "Oh, she's back," and I'm like, "Well, with a little bit of something something extra."
Right. So did you find then? So, and it's kind of great that you're sharing that because what I've been feeling over the last little while is that, you know, before certain experiences in our life, we were a certain way. Our parents expected us to be a certain way, our family members, our friends, and just society in general, because we
Mm,
operated in that specific way with that name, right? So, and I find it interesting that you took on a new name in order to probably discover more of who you truly were. And then
yeah,
kind of reintegrate yourself with back to your real, well, your true name, your true essence, but now with this newfound identity, I suppose, or the things that you've been through, your experiences that refined you to be where you are now, right?
yeah, totally. And in a way, the name change sort of gave me a little moment to sort of wrap up into a nice little beautiful package who Joanne was, and just like kind of set all of those ideas and that persona aside for a moment, and just like kind of clean slate,
Yeah.
and sort of open that package up like piece by piece, and take out the things that I wanted to look at, like a little treasure chest that you have as a kid, and all your favorite things go in there, and it changes over time. You open it and you take something out just to look at it, just to gaze. I loved gazing as a kid at
Right.
little things. So it was kind of like that kind of experience.
And when did
And
that journey
yeah,
start for you? When did that journey start for you?
I guess it really began like when I was, now that I look back and reflect back, like sort of I can go back to my first memories actually as a child, where you first start to form, or you first start to remember, or take notice of who you are in the world, where you have that kind of, yeah, your first memory as a child, really.
Wow.
What are
So
the what those memories are and what they mean to us.
wow. You were able
And
to go that far back, eh?
yeah, well, I think we all can, and we all sort of do. Like in meditation, it kind of naturally comes up. You roll back to the time in your life where everything was magical, and you were
Mm,
just like discovering the world, like being in your grandma's garden, or flower gazing. Like, what was the first thing that really kind of captivated you as a child, where you were like, yeah, where you were captivated. And for me, that was actually a grain of sand. It was one of the first things that I was completely captivated by, just how it happened to be that way on the beach one day when I was a kid. And the sun was just hitting it right. And I was like, oh my God, this grain of sand looks so big all of a sudden to me. So that was one of my very first sort of childhood memories, where I was aware of
mm,
myself having an experience.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember what that was for you, or does something
Gosh.
come up in your mind but from hearing that?
Well, it's just, I find it interesting because by sharing different experiences with different people, because different personality styles will have, or different people in general will have something that captivates their heart at different stages. I have a few friends of mine that are like yourself that will go back into in the past and recall certain things, and I'd be like, those moments when I were younger, not that I can't go there, but it's not moments that woke me up, let's say. It was like moments later on in life. It's kind of like it took me a while to wake up, or it took me a while to grasp and be aware of certain things, right? Because you're just living life. And I find it fascinating that some people recognize from a very young age, let's say, oh, they always knew that something was wrong, or they always felt like they never fit in, or, and I'd be like, I don't remember that at all. I just did, and but it was only as experience, I gained experience throughout my life, that I started going, why is this like this? Why is this like that? So it's not that I was slow. It was just that that's how I had to experience life to get to where I'm at. So were you the type that when you were younger, you kind of went, something's off here? Did you instinctively feel that from a young age, or what happened like that for you?
No, I don't think so. Like, I mean, I did feel different, yes, but I actually felt like everybody felt like me. So
Right?
I kind of didn't feel so different from other people, but I did like as a child in the moment, I felt like everything felt cohesive. I had a really kind of average, normal childhood with
Right.
grandparents around and,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. But there was things that would happen from time to time that, yeah, I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. And, just little things like, for example, one day at school, we had our last class was ice skating, and I had
Okay.
ice skating lessons, and it was the last class of the day was our ice skating lesson at school. And I was like, well, can I just stay here? Because I'm going to walk back to the school and then have to walk right exactly back to here again. And my teacher was like, no, you have to come back because I have to check out, you have to check out of school. And I just thought it was totally ridiculous. And so halfway back to school, well, actually like one block away from the skating rink, we were going around a corner and I was like, well, I can just like peel out of the lineup and just go back to the skating rink right here and no one will ever know.
Ridiculous. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Why do we have to do these kinds of things? It's
And like, yeah, this was like, grade two, like just taking that initiative on myself, like things like that. So yeah, I was kind of a bit like
yeah.
bold, I guess, in that department.
Well,
But
and that's good. It's like I remember asking my mom and dad. I think every child asks this when they're younger, like, why are we going to school? Like, why are we? So I think instinctively we know as children, like, this is not cool. Like, why, and you lose your creativity. Like, and I can see looking back now going, oh, I remember I was more creative as a child. I was like, I was more artistic. And then as time wore on, like I'm now in a box. And now, of course, we see these memes on Facebook where it shows you that children have all these expressions and they're vibrant and all that, and then they get into a cookie cutter and they come out with this, Mason hat square that says you conform to society, right? And I'm finding
totally,
that a lot of the healing process that I feel that I'm going through has to do with picking up an identity that didn't belong to me, right?
definitely.
Just to fit in, or just to live and survive. And I'm finding that I'd say over the last 5, 6 years has been when it's been the most predominant, especially with what we knew took place, back in 2020. Uh,
Yeah.
so and that was a big wake up call for a lot of us. I don't know about yourself, but I had woken up a little bit before that, a couple of years prior, and thankfully was able to see between the facade and say, okay, like this isn't,
Yeah, there's more going on here than what I thought. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I thought I was awake, and then, I guess almost 3 years ago now, I got a new reality check.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And
it started with allegedly Dave. He really had a big impact on me with just the whole way he showed the legal system, and I learned about the water of life through
hmm
him, and the nature of our reality, like the actual plane of existence that
yeah,
we're standing on.
that's
He
right.
really rocked my world
Right.
in a way. And
And
I had just been on the phone with my mom like prior to that, and she was talking about, how she didn't believe in the global model anymore. And I like freaked out at her. I screamed at her. I swore at her. I was like, you need to kick those friends out. And then I got off the phone and I was like, wait a minute. Okay, just hang on for a second. And I asked myself, I'm like, have I actually ever seen this elusive curve? Have
Right.
I actually ever seen that? Or is this just something I'm repeating that I've been told, but I've never actually seen it? Like, I
Yeah.
never actually stopped to actually look to see if this thing I believed in was actually there.
Mhm.
And that blew me away. And, as a kid, I was really big lucid dreamer when I was a kid,
Oh,
and
right.
sometimes it would freak me out and I would be like, what if I get these two things mixed up and I think that what my lucid dream is actually like a real experience that I had. And I mean, it is kind of true when you're dreaming, it's real. But
Mhm.
as a kid, I was like, whoa. So yeah, that whole thing really, and I was
Yeah.
so, I love it. It's brought me into my spirituality,
Yes.
really anchored me into my spirituality, and
Hmm.
that everything is like divinely created, and that we have a creator, and it's so much more beautiful way of feeling myself here than to just adopt all of these, models and theories. I had no idea there was another choice,
No,
I thought
absolutely.
I thought it was a sealed deal.
Well, what you don't really know. And that was one thing too. Like I remember back in 2018, I was asking different questions. And the funny thing is that I had ran for provincial office, okay, in Ontario. And I was like going to save the world, right, by being elected into the system, okay. And but I kind of always felt, and I was religious. I was a born again Christian when I was 20 years old, so I grew up in the church, right, with a Bible in hand and all that kind of stuff, right, and thinking that I had all the answers and I had the truth. And but then there was always certain things that I couldn't connect with, and I had asked the question, like, what is it that I don't see? I knew instinctively that there was something that I couldn't see because I was living in northern Ontario at the time and looking around, going outside, and it just, Jo-Ann, like, I remember looking at life going, if I were picked up from this place and I was thrown, let's say, into Calgary, I was thrown into Los Angeles or New York or some large city, it was the same exact thing. Everybody lived the exact same life, cookie cutter life. Go to school, get a job, work till you're 65 or whatever, and retire. And I said, what am I not seeing? And then and then as time grew on, then the flat earth thing came about, right? I was watching this YouTube live, and this guy was talking about like his experience. His name is Remigio Pereira, and he was like one of the four tenors in the United States, and he was
Oh
talking
wow.
about his experience about being famous and going to dig sites in Alberta where he's like, isn't it funny that all these dinosaurs lived like millions of years ago? And he's like, but then I go into a dig site and 15 minutes later, I find a bone. He's like, wow, I just found that right away. Right. And then he talks about his other experiences, and then he starts to talk about the flat earth. And initially, well, he was really well spoken and well versed. So I was captivated by what he had to share. And by the end of the live, I heard a voice share with me saying, I want you to check out Flat Earth. And I said, would you like me to get my tinfoil hat? Like just as if, like, because like you, I was like, die hard. I was a NASA believer. I was a globe earth and all that. I don't wanted to be an astronaut when I was a child. So, and then I heard the voice say, go take a look. So I decided to go online and check flat earth, and I found a couple of videos and I started watching. And within, I'm not exaggerating when I see this, but like I saw a pattern. I did a pattern recognition thing, and about 5 minutes later, I was sobbing. I realized
Yeah.
I was lied to. I was like, and like you said earlier, I didn't realize I had another option. I had another choice, right? Because I recognized at that point in time that I had been giving lens And I was only able to see life through the globe earth lens.
Yeah.
And when somebody else gave me another pair of glasses, it shook my entire world, because then it
Yeah.
went, hey, if, and I remember hearing the voice of God or the source saying, he said, remember how they told you you were a monkey in school? So if they told you that you were a monkey in school, why would they tell you a truth about where you live?
Yeah.
And it was just like, and that was my journey. The first, flat earth seems to have been a lot of people's entryway into
Mm-hmm.
the truth. Or some people knew about 9/11 way back when, but I was too
Mm-hmm.
asleep, too young, I suppose, to
Yeah, me
be able
too.
to grasp those things. But that was the journey for me. 2018, November 2018 was when I'm like, and of course I have a big mouth and I wanted to tell everybody about it. And they're looking at you like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. And for me, it was like, but don't you understand? It's the foundation of everything. And
Yeah, it really it made it so I could understand astrology and just the way everything moves in the sky. It was super grounding for me because I never actually understood the globe model, like how it all actually could function and how the stars could be the way they are in that I couldn't visualize it. I just could never understand it. So when the ground became what it felt to
right,
me, I
right.
just went with what I was feeling. And I don't feel like I'm moving until, this is like, okay, I'm moving, but this earth under me has never felt to me like it's moving.
Yeah.
And so it was like this super grounding feeling, and something in me, the spirit, the source,
right.
just that connection to God just came to me then. And everything felt so much more spiritual and magical. And I don't have a clue, what this realm actually, looks like
Right.
for real.
Right.
I just go with what I can see with my own eyes and feel with my own person, and try to filter through the I don't even
This
want to
realm.
call it media, the entertainment system that we call
Right.
the news.
Exactly. Isn't it funny? For some people, waking up to that brought them to spirituality. And I felt I was spiritual before that. And I went the opposite way. It shook
Yeah,
me to
and
the,
then the plasma.
oh gosh. Well, that actually, the funny thing is, I had found out about that in 2010 when I went on a trip to Punta Cana. And my mom and I went there for a trip, and we met this one woman who started talking to us about this book that she was reading that was called Your Body, Your Perfect Medicine.
Mm,
And initially I was like, I'm always open to hear what people have to say. And I actually started dabbling into it when I got back home, but I wasn't ready for the fullness of what just recently took place.
mm,
Right. So how did that journey start for you?
mm. Well, my father was ill, actually really ill, and I was far away from him. And I was like, oh, I've always been looking for healthy things and healthy lifestyle and that kind of uh, that kind of thing. And so it came actually all at the same time. Like all of these new realities came flooding at me literally in within, hours of each other. So it was
Wow.
like, kind of a truth assault.
Yeah, those
Funny,
are
hey, truth
major.
assault. Anyway,
Those are major, and they hurt.
yeah. And I went right straight into a 3-day plasma fast. I had really intense wrist pain at the time. Like I could barely function. And in like 2.5 days, that was gone. I couldn't believe it. I was just like afraid to say that it was happening in case it wasn't,
Right.
true. And I've
Right.
never gone back to that level of pain again in my wrist since. Like, and I know I'll never see that kind of pain return again in my body, in my wrists. And yeah, I got my dad to, give it a try, and I really feel like it saved his life. But it
How
was
long ago was this?
almost 3 years ago now.
3 years ago. And how did this come about? Was it when you were watching Allegedly Dave?
Yeah,
Is that yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
And
and
then
when I
I don't have a full-time job. I'm a stay-at-home like nerd. And I just like read everything I could find and every video that I could find out there about it. I just like I couldn't get the information in me fast enough, and so it was really from a grounded place of feeling the experience for myself, and having done all of this reading and sent some of that information to my parents. And then, yeah, and then I was like actually stomping on the ground outside. I'm like, I am jumping up and down on the ground. You have to do this. Like, you have to.
you don't understand how vital this is, right? This is
Yeah.
not
And
just for you and that's not for me kind of thing. Yeah.
right. I was like, no, I wasn't letting go of it. I just wasn't going to let go.
Right.
And yeah, so they went for it, and yeah,
Yeah,
so,
and your dad
and
recovered?
a lot of other people.
Right.
Yes, huge
It's
impact.
it's
Huge impact on my.
I can't hear you anymore. I can't hear you anymore. Yeah, no, I can't hear you. They don't like the topic at hand. No. I'm gonna check to see if I can hear you on YouTube. Maybe it's just me. Did you want to say something on YouTube? Speak. I'm checking on my phone to see if I can hear you. Well, while we wait for Jo-Ann, I think it's really interesting how different people live different experiences. Well, while we wait for Jo-Ann, I think it's and how for one person, when they learn the truth about something, depending on where they're standing, the ground that they're standing on would either bring them to a higher spiritual level, or for someone like myself, where I thought that I had a good spiritual
Oh
ground.
wow!
Oh, there
Can you hear
she
me
is.
now?
I can hear you now.
It's someone in the chat says also can't hear. I can hear Jojo. Okay. Can you check and see if you can hear both of us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I just getting Olivier to see if he can.
No, if she can hear you, they can hear
Yeah, we're
Okay.
good. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it was
We're
just
back.
while you were coming back in, I was just sharing with people, just going, I find it absolutely amazing how certain experiences for people will bring them higher up into spirituality. But for others that think they are spiritually grounded, are thrown off course. And I was thrown off course for the last, I would say, 3-4 years, because then I recognized just how religiousized I was, just how indoctrinated into certain belief system that the matrix gave me. And coming to that understanding made me was a big deal. So and this, Jo-Ann, is where we're talking about the plasma before you got cut off. And for those who don't know what plasma is, it's also called uropathy. It's also called urine therapy. And for those who might go, oh, what the hell? Please, before you start freaking out and start kicking into the programming of what you think it is, give us a chance. But when I was watching allegedly Dave's video, Taking the Piss, it's titled, right? That's the one that you probably watched with, what was his name? Andrew Norton Weber. Right. And I remember watching some of the video, but as soon as they started more towards the end, where they start to talk about consciousness and chakras, I shut off completely. And because of my religious indoctrination, you don't do these kinds of things. That's witchcraft. That's demonic. Or, so there's a lot in the religious system that prevents a lot of people that really want the truth to be shut off because their foundational aspects are told you can't do this. So I did a lot of the don't do this, don't do that. And it was a shock to the system when you're then told, but what if this is true? Well, what do you mean if this is true? I've been believing this for 20 years. That's a big shock. And it was only till recently when I was reacquainted with urine therapy. I call it life force, life force therapy. I think it's better suited for what it actually is. I had a girlfriend of mine just secretly message me and say, oh, I wanted to let you know I've been studying this for over a year. You're going to think it's gross. And she says to me, I'm doing urine therapy. And I laughed. And I'm like, oh, gosh, honey, like I'm open. She's like, really? I thought you were going to all be grossed out. And because of her testimony, it kind of like brought it back into my awareness. And then I had like a healing crisis or like an issue come up a few weeks ago. And that just catapulted me into this whole journey all over again. And that's where I found you. I found Megan. I found Kate Stillman. I found Amanda Vollmer. And I was able to then revisit allegedly Dave's video and now fully understand, okay, this is so like you shared earlier about your name. Like I didn't have a name change, but I feel like I now have a new identity. I'm feeling more who I was really meant to be.
Yes.
I always knew within my heart that as you're deconstructing out of the matrix, whether it's the flat earth thing, whether it's the religious ideologies, the family spirits, the familiar spirits that you've taken on yourself that don't belong to you, and you're deconstructing that, trying to find yourself in this web of lies or deception is quite the journey. And I now am fully convinced that without the life force therapy, it very seldom are people able to maybe catapult into greater awareness. Because in my religious ideologies, I would share that I always knew that the kingdom of heaven was within. Okay. And everybody keeps saying, everything is within you. Everything is within you. You don't need to go on the outside. And for a long time, I was saying the system is set up so that you always have to go on the outside. You need your car fixed, go to a mechanic. You have issues with your teeth, go to a dentist. Over your eyes, go to, and it's always on the outside. You're always grasping on the outside of yourself. And I thought, well, if the kingdom of heaven is within, what does that mean? Because you can change the way you think. As a man thinks, so is he. But without that element of reintroducing your life force, there's something missing.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. I have not read the Bible so much as I
Well,
have in the last like 2 years. It's
is that
wild
right?
to me.
Oh,
I mean, I'll watch like a guy like some of my favorite YouTube channels. It's like they just go in hard, for hours. I'll sit there listening. It's crazy to me to how much it's brought me back to that. Yeah,
really? So what is it that you're
absolutely.
finding? Like, what are things that you're finding that are really speaking to you regarding that? Or what are you
Just
learning?
like how it's like hidden. There's hidden history in there, and
Yeah.
all these ancient texts like the Pali Canon, and it's not just the Christian Bible that that I've been diving into, but a broad spectrum of them.
Mhm.
So the Pali Canon is another one.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
That's like the Buddhism. So
Oh,
which also the water of life is mentioned in there
interesting.
explicitly. Not just like drink it, but actually explicitly saying that fermented urine is your medicine for the rest of your life.
Right,
Basically, like that's a very rough translation of the
right. But that's the idea.
yeah, but that's what they're saying in there. So it's interesting, and also in the Bible is drink from your own cistern.
Right.
So
Well, there was
that's
also
that's
this.
sure what it feels like.
Well, this thing that Jesus would always say, well, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water.
Yeah, I know it's
That
everywhere in there too. And
and
every
that's
time they talk
coming.
about blood, yeah, every time they talk about
Right.
blood, I'm like, there's your plasma.
Well, and now things make
Absolutely.
more
Or
sense.
wine. When they talk about
Ah,
wine, I also associate that with
is
the
that
the
right? See, I would
plasma.
never made that connection. But now I understand now why Jesus was able to, walk the desert for 40 days and
40
40
day.
nights.
Yeah,
So that,
exactly. I'm like,
well,
boom.
makes more sense. And then like now just different things that I don't know, like I feel this has been my opinion, right? Because I had to throw the baby out with the bathwater when I went through this awakening process because I recognized that I had been indoctrinated by the church with their dogmas and their ideas. I was a filthy sinner. I needed to
Oh
repent.
yeah.
I needed the blood of Jesus. I needed all those things, right? And I confessed that for like, oh yeah, a good decade for sure. And that was part of my everyday life. And when I was confronted with the idea that what I believed to be true was false, I couldn't just, I had to let everything go. And I used to read my Bible, oh my gosh, day and night. And now I haven't been able to pick it up in the last five
Oh
years.
wow.
So see how it's funny? Like, but I remember stuff. It's in me, right? But I'm still leery to approach it because
Yes.
I don't I'm afraid that I still have a lot of dogmatic ideas or religious ideology,
Right.
right? So, and I've learned a lot since then too about the God of the Old Testament and who he truly is, as opposed to what I thought he was. So I don't ever know if I'll be able to pick it back up again like I used to, but I always enjoy hearing people's experiences, what they're learning as they pick it up, let's say for the very first time. Now, with
Yeah.
your experience, so you don't have to deconstruct like I do,
Right.
you
No,
know?
and I can totally understand how there's like a lot of healing that is going to happen
Yeah,
through this over the next years here. I think people are really seeing everything in a new light,
absolutely.
in it with like a new through a new lens, like through a new reality. And that movie that we shared, These Little Things, is that what it's called?
I think yeah, I haven't been able to watch it yet though.
Yeah, that really, you'll find that really interesting because this is actually what it's touching on is
Oh,
healing this wound that a lot of people have with their religion.
oh, yeah. It's you know what it did for me, and I'm sure for many other former Christians, is that it tells you that the life you live here is nothing but a vapor, and to just wish for, you're praying for the afterlife, not enjoying your today, right? Because this is a demonic realm. It's awful here, and some people are in the truther community still believe that, but then you don't see the beauty of life. Like now that I'm using my own life force, I think people think that this body was created by a demiurge, okay? Or they think, well, there's a lot of belief systems out there. I don't think I can ascribe to that because of just the beautiful way that our bodies are made. Like that we could self-sustain. When I think I was watching Kate Stillman's video on that, she did a PowerPoint presentation on the medicinal aspects of it, and she
Yeah.
actually did a very good video, and I share that with everybody at first. And when she shared that that we are a consumer driven society, and she says when you start to realize that your life force, their blood plasma, you turn into a consumer to a creator. Joe, it
Yes.
hit me like a ton of bricks. That completely shifted my perspective because,
Yeah.
as you know, a lot of us, well, perhaps we're prepping, we're doing all these things for, the possible end of the world and what they're doing in society. And I know I went on that tangent a long time ago because I operated in fear, right?
Right.
And now knowing that my own body produces water, filtered water, produces nutrients and stuff,
Yeah.
like I don't need them. I don't need
Yeah.
them.
You literally, all you need is an empty water bottle.
Like talk about, and then I was watching some of your videos that talked about your experience and how you go from a unnatural life to a more natural way of being and a way of life. And at first, years ago, I used to think that was like hippie, right? Like, oh, only the hippies do that kind of stuff. And I and I'm like, oh, that's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah, it's
it's
pretty
amazing.
hilarious.
Yeah, how this changes your perspective. Like I've flipped. I have now. I feel like I'm empowered now, because not only about drinking the living waters, but the mindset that comes along with it. I don't need
Right.
the system. I don't need them. I don't need their medication. I don't need any of their anything. And
Yeah.
that's truly
It's really
empowering,
liberating. It's really liberating. And
right?
really let go of so much fear and so much anxiety that comes along with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I've noticed that since I've been reintroducing my life force, that I don't have any more anxiety. Like if my physical, like I had pills and all that kind of stuff to help with that stuff. I haven't had need of it. I wake up in the morning, maybe sometimes tired because I'm cycling, but I don't have the anxious thoughts anymore.
Yeah, I used to travel around with like I couldn't go anywhere without Tylenol or aspirin. I had chronic migraine, headache, and digestive issues. And I have like absolutely zero pharmaceuticals that I carry around with me now, which
And
just
digestive
blows
issues.
my mind.
Wow. It's
Crazy.
it's it's amazing what and now like it's kind of funny because I was sharing with a girlfriend of mine saying I probably won't tell very many people about this because this is precious. You don't want to tell too many people about it because like as Jesus said, he says, don't cast your pearls to swine. Meaning like don't cast your pearls to people that may not be in the realm of understanding
Yeah.
what this is. So and now here I am doing a live and sharing it on Facebook. Fabulous. But anyways, not everybody's gonna that's all right. But
The message only gets to the right people, so that's how I
exactly.
came to peace with it because yeah, the Dharma Tantra actually says, that this is to be kept a secret and don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
But
And it's
I
true.
feel like I don't just tell anyone, and I feel like
Yeah.
my message is viewed by people that will want to be curious and listen, and
Yeah. And
yeah,
find you, right?
any
Like how
nasty comments will be immediately deleted. Just so you know, I
well,
have no
and
problem with the ban button.
no, and you know what? Like since like I've been in this journey of truth anyways, I'm used to people thinking that I'm crazy. I'm used to people thinking that what I
Yeah,
think is wrong or that I go against the
yeah.
grain. Like, we need to forge. Like, there's always pioneers that go forward and forge the way. And so, and I'm glad that those, like, I found you and I found Megan so that I could be amongst a community of people that have,
Yes.
that have been through this.
And this is really why I created why the Mother Spirit community came into creation.
Right.
Is because I did a 9-day plasma fast.
Did you?
And during that experience, it was like, my feminine ancestors gave me a very direct message in that experience.
Really
And yeah, I was sort of like guided into this
into doing that.
by
Yeah.
some other force to share this. And yeah, And so
It's
that created the community for for myself to have a place where I could
right.
speak, and
Mhm.
then to, slowly knew that that would attract the right people, and the community would just slowly grow from there. And so, yeah, so it's humble beginnings. Like, this is literally, it took a while for that message to sort of settle in and to be okay with it. It's something to get in front of a camera and hit live stream,
Right.
like, and
Right.
start talking about what you're doing with your
With your life.
body fluids. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. But
but
it's like you said, it's going to reach the right people at the right time. And
yes.
that's
And
the
and Mother Spirit isn't just about this. Like, there's people in the community that don't cycle their waters. It's not like a prerequisite. This is
right, right,
really a safe space to share things in your things that you do in your life, and
right.
your spiritual journey, and just whatever it might be, whatever that might be. There's no taboo subjects. So,
And that's what you want, because as we're transitioning from what we used to know to where we're going, like I know I've picked up along the way different things that were also more deceptions along the way, because they always have another trap for you, you know, one deception thing after another. And it's just to journey your way out of that.
yes.
And that's why I'm looking forward to doing a life force a fast as well in the new year, because it's funny, we're mentioning about lucid dreaming. I had a friend of mine a while ago share with me about lucid dreaming, and about how he shared that all the answers are within you, and he says you could actually ask your, because in our DNA, all of our ancestors are within our DNA. It's in the waters. It's in the water. And I was like, okay, this is the answer for me to be able to gain more insight about where I'm supposed to go, what I'm supposed to do. But I had the lack of understanding at that time that I couldn't do the lucid dreaming personally for myself. Maybe other people can, but for me, with the life force therapy, I have to go through this route first in order to because that's, the washing away of sins, because it's reintroducing the information of who you truly are, and it washes away the programming. I think it's
Yes.
just, the more I think about how marvelous this stuff is, Jo-Ann, I'm blown away.
Yeah, hey.
Absolutely.
Same here. Even like almost 3 years later now, it's still like just every day surprises me. And the lucid dreaming that I had as a child, like, it came, and the clairvoyance, which I now call intuition.
Right.
I feel like we all have intuition, but it really like cleared that channel back for me to have that intuition return. And, the intuition I had as a child actually saved my life.
Really.
For, well, maybe not saved my life, but saved me from having a really bad experience. I feel I was super young little girl coming home from school in Unity, Saskatchewan, and a strange man that I had never seen before in a vehicle I'd never seen before. And, Unity, Saskatchewan is as small as it sounds.
Okay.
And this man pulled up beside me. I was literally 2 doors away from home, and he offered me a ride home. And I was immediately suspicious, and I bolted. I never said a word. That imprint of that man's face is forever etched in my mind, though. And I like just ran. I never looked back, and I just ran straight to the door and went inside and like locked myself in the house.
Wow.
And yeah, I really feel like I had that intuition, and I listened to it as a child, and I just, reacted in the right way. So I feel like it's a super important aspect of who we are that
Right.
you kind of lose touch with as you get older. It was for me anyway, and I feel like the water of life really brought that intuition, that clairvoyance back, and
Hmm.
you can read people better, which helps you understand where they are better. I really like to, when I go to the store, I like to smile at the clerk and, give people my energy, but some people don't actually want it. And, to know the difference between the ones that are ready to receive and the ones that, just want to be left alone and to be,
Right.
aware of your surroundings. Super powerful.
Well, and it's amazing. Like, did you notice that when you were a child, was there a time in your life where your intuition kind of kicked off, probably when you went to school, or did you notice that?
Yeah, when you get into your teens and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and you get so caught up into the social realm of being popular at school and trying to fit in and just like whatever,
yeah.
keeping up with the memorization required to get you through it.
Right. Well, it's who was I listening to? Oh, I was listening to Michelle and Mario, and they were talking about how as you reintroduce your living waters, that it brings your sensibility back. Like Mario was talking about how rough and tough he was, and how he was proud about how cold-hearted, maybe not the right word he said, but how he was cold. And he said, as he cycled, he says, I became more emotional and more sensitive. And I was really encouraged by that, because this life and what we go through and the way that everything is set up to upset you, to discourage you, to give you hopelessness, to give you a hardened heart. And what other belief systems come along with that, right? Like a fight or flight mode. And to know that we can go back as a child, or having the sensibilities and having back our intuition, having our ability to think more clearly, have the ability to read the energy better, like, and start to experience other emotions that have possibly been suppressed,
Yes.
you know?
And it gives you like the body wants to be in homeostasis, right? So I really feel like I often talk about plasma as a drinkable hologram. It's like information you're giving your body back to itself. So
Right.
when you're going through something traumatic and you take that water back into your system, your body's like, oh, she's under a lot of stress.
Right.
Let's make something to bring the body back into balance. Uh, I really feel that. The last 2 years there's been some heavy lifting emotionally, and I just every time when I'm in the thick of it, it's like I crave that information to come back. I crave it. I'm like, just give my body that information back, and then it's like, okay, you can deal with everything so much better.
And that resonates, by the way, when you share that, because it's true. It's the body. It's the you give it the anti venom, right? Like that's what I keep mentioning when you're going through things. It's the anti venom. Just reintroduce it. It'll give it the cure that it needs.
Yeah. I love
And
this, what Ian's saying here. Sorry to
that's
interrupt
okay.
you,
Yeah,
Joanne. They use the theory of evolution to hide the creator and leave us in despair. I really feel like
absolutely.
that
And
hits it.
they do that through the creation, and they do that through religiosity or whatever. Or they give you an idea of what they want you to think God is.
Yeah.
Oh,
When I was a little girl going to Bible camp, I actually was like crying when I would come home from there because I was just like, oh my God, like, no one can hold themselves up to this standard and we're all going to hell. But but the plasma actually really makes me see that in a whole new light now. Like I really see it in an entirely different way. Yeah.
absolutely. It's like I just go back to, it's the waters of life, cycle of life. It's just that to me was the missing key.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's going to open up other things in my body that have been suppressed. Like
Yes.
what they had shared, I can't remember if it was one of your videos where Fiona was mentioning something, but how it reopens your pathways, it reopens the energy blocks that you have, or perhaps it was Megan. And I am so looking forward to that. Part of why
Yeah.
I want to do a 21-day fast, because I've done a 17-day fast in the past with just water, and I felt great. But now I see mine is a spiritual. I'm doing this for spiritual reasons. I want to have other things open up. I want to be able to see. And like you shared earlier, when you did your 9-day fast, you had a clarity of what to do next. And I'm sure that a lot of people like us in what's going on now, we feel that there's a shift, there's a change. I can't go back living my life like I used to. I'm currently,
No.
yeah, I'm currently off leave from work, from, the matrix. And I'm like, I can't go back. There's just
Yeah.
something that I can't keep. People in the truther community know what's going on. And they're like, but I don't see very many people changing their behavior accordingly.
Yeah. A lot of fear tied up in that. I remember like when I came into all of this, all at the same time, I was just like, no, I'm just gonna, like, we're just gonna pretend that we don't know all these things. We're just gonna live our life like we have been. And we're
Right.
just gonna fit in with everybody else. And
Right.
yeah, my partner was like,
No,
no.
you can't.
Olivier was like, no, we're gonna
Well,
be able to do that.
with more information, you can make different decisions. You can create a different life. So, and just with the life by living waters, I'm like, I don't need to prep. I don't need to do these things. I don't need to do like 1,000 different things. That brings so much peace, and different decisions now can be made based on that. But I can
Yeah.
understand why people are like, I don't want to see, just, like, some people like this, and some people go, woohoo, I'm gonna press forward, I'm gonna move on to a better thing, right? So, and I seem to be that type, but I have to go through, the dark night of the soul for a long
Mm.
time because of the fear, the despair. What are we going to do? And you just see how immense of a plan that they have in store.
Oh,
And
wow.
you're
It's grand.
like, right? But then you recognize, I kept asking myself, why are we being attacked so much? Why are we being deceived so much, lied to, preyed upon?
Mm.
And then it's not that I have the totality of the answer, but I've understood that we must be something very powerful and special to
Mm.
be that attacked to that degree,
Yeah.
to that degree. And which is why I'm excited about doing the fasting with the cycling, because
Hmm.
I feel that I'm going to get an awakening, and I'm going to know deeper what it is that we're meant to do and who are meant
Yeah.
to, you know?
Yeah. One of our viewers is saying baby truthers, and yeah, it's pretty true.
Yeah.
We're in the infant stage
Oh,
still, but thankfully, thankfully we're there.
absolutely. Absolutely. Lots of what.
And so true. Lots of folks don't want the responsibility of taking care of themselves or their families. Yeah. I
Yeah.
used to say that to my son, I was like, healthcare doesn't come from a plastic card in your wallet. You have to
Mm,
actually be the one taking care of that.
right. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Chuck Swindoll Jr., and he was
Mm,
sharing about how nature doesn't give its secrets liberally. You
mm,
have to go and merit
mm,
the
mm.
experience in life to be able to understand and
Yeah.
to gain wisdom. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine talking about, I did the birth certificate thing. Okay. So I gave back my birth certificates to the powers that be to say, look, I'm not your slave. Anyhow, and he would share with me, was like, well, if this is true, how come not everybody knows about it? Do you not know anything about how truth works? And I was like, this guy is so far gone. I can't even begin to start explaining stuff. If you can't understand why they
Mm,
hide things to begin with, why they hide the truth, I can't,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And how Karen, she's saying here, I was a prepper. Knowledge of urine therapy has released me from that fear. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Fiona Gardner too, she also says this. She was a prepper. In a way, I kind of was a prepper. I was living in a place the where we were where we had decided to be in the world was all based on fear.
Yes.
Fear of nuclear this, fear of
Yes.
environmental that, fear
Yeah.
of lack, fear of yeah.
Exactly.
And so
Everything based.
after plasma therapy, after urine therapy came into our lives, we were like, okay, well, the whole world's an oyster, where do we actually want to be? So it really changed everything.
And
Uh,
that's beautiful. And, I really
yeah.
commend you for that, because I still think that there's still some fear that needs to be taken out. Because, like yourself, if you keep what you focus on, you become. You are what you behold.
Mm,
Eyes are the windows to the soul. So if you keep focusing on the negative, that's all you're going to be
mm-hmm.
outputting. And so I still have some fear, like I'm not going to lie, but I want to get rid of it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I totally
I
agree,
agree
Ian.
with that
Nuclear
too.
weapons are a hoax. I would just like at the when all of this information came to me, I realized like I'm like, okay, whatever it is that they're saying, if it makes me afraid, then it's probably not true.
That's right. That's right. Or
Yeah.
if anything, like this is, if the people that are clueless believe it, then it's not. Like if the normal people, when you go to the coffee shop and they're talking about politics and they believe it to be true, it's not. Thanks. That seems to be the pattern. That's my gauge now. Pattern recognition. You know? Yeah. So yeah, I'll talk to the neighbors and ask them and engage. So what do you think about this? Oh, they're afraid. Perfect. I know what to believe now. But it's amazing how this truth journey is never ending, because there's always more things. And the knowledge of the truth and acting upon the truth really does set you free. It, first it might piss you off, like what people said, when like the truth comes out, you're like, oh gosh. But at the end of the day, it brings you to another level so that you can grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt for the longest time that the more we know who we are, the more we'll know who our creator is, who the source is, because we're
Yeah.
made in his image or their image or whoever they are at one, I no longer subscribe to monotheism. So I'm like, okay, so what does that look like? Grand
Yeah.
creator, multiple, like, but that's another journey for another day, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like how Ian describes it here. I'm just trying to bring this up. If they sell it to you before you can think, 6 to 8 years old, it's a safe bet it's a lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
Well,
Yeah. And it really has brought that back up to this childlike mind. Yeah. The creativity and the imagination
yeah.
and the intuition and empathy. It really has brought all of those things really to light for me over the last 3 years.
It's opened up your heart. It's opened up your chakras, right? It's
Yeah.
opened up everything that was probably shut down. And
Yeah.
what was beautiful, I think it was Fiona that was sharing that the waters are light. Was it her that was sharing that? That is just because we are the light of the world. We are the light.
Yeah. We are
And
literally glowing.
I
Yeah.
started having an experience about that about a few weeks ago. I had a friend over, and when I took a look, I saw green. I had never seen that before. And I talked to some of my girlfriends about it afterwards. I'm like, what was that? And they said, you saw the heart chakra. And I was like, wow, this is and what I'm excited about is that as you reintroduce your life force, your blood plasma, that you will then be able to awaken the senses that have been um,
Dormant or,
dormant, or yeah, because
yeah.
all they do is tell you about the 5 physical senses without having any other sense that other senses are available. No?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I love that. I love Fiona's work so much. It just gives such confirmation that that visual of all these crystals growing inside of the evolved plasma and the plasma of people who are cyclers, that before and after picture, like the picture of people's plasma before they start taking this as a practice and the after, just like, wow.
You
So
know what?
there's these like light seeds inside of us that we
Yes.
wake up when we start to bring our waters back into ourselves.
It would have been interesting to also maybe see like an aura, like a before and after, what that
Yeah.
would typically look like. Um,
Yeah,
not to.
we have been convinced to not trust our senses, and common sense is so
Yeah,
true.
yeah. We've been
Yeah.
told. We've been told to just trust authority,
Yeah.
and regardless if it's good or not, like what was Dave allegedly Dave would say, it's a system of legal, illegal, not right or wrong. That's a whole nother topic for another day, right, Joe?
Yeah. Well, we're at an hour, so
Yes,
I usually like to keep it within an hour. So
great.
we will. That seems like a great place to make a conclusion. And this is Jo-Ann's Facebook, if people want to find her there. And my website, if anybody would like to come and share their experience with me here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, where we're live streaming right now, I would love to have you. So thanks, Jo-Ann. And do you want to
Thank
give a
you.
little any closing feelings that you'd like to
Yeah,
express?
right. Like, I would just like to thank you for having me here with you. I think it's a great
Mm,
thing to have conversations, especially with other women that are becoming more themselves and are journeying this path called life, whatever that is. And we are stepping out of fear and into victory and into freedom, however that looks like. All of our journeys are different, but the heart's desire is all the same, is to
mm,
walk in truth and to walk in light and love. And thank you for hosting me today. And I hope that for everybody watching that they gained something and that we do this again sometime.
absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you, and thank everybody who tuned in and participated in the little live chat. It's my favorite part of doing this. It's actually why I do it, is to get that community engagement and feedback and camaraderie. And this is really about community building for me. So thank you so much, Jo-Ann.
Thank you. Yes.
And we'll see everybody soon.
All
So,
right. Thank you.
ciao.
Okay, bye.